I figured I would call and give a bit of a follow-up because I actually called, I think maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly.
I remember your call.
I was talking about how I was a polytheist, but I weren't sure whether the gods were real, and I've sort of been thinking about that since then. And I have a very good friend who's an atheist, who actually he also called your show once upon a time.
Rock on, I like it.
I got these people, and so I did, and so we've sort of been talking about it, and I've been thinking about it, and I've come to the conclusion that. That because I would like to believe true things and not false things as much as possible, that I have to therefore say that, the gods probably don't exist. I mean, I've already been saying they probably don't exist, but...
Everyone here is clapping for you.
Kate, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I've decided that because I find useful things in my religion, but I don't particularly want to give up. So I've sort of decided that what happens if I sort of assume the gods don't exist because I don't have sufficient evidence for it, but continue doing my religious thing as if they do.
Sure.
So if I do my offerings and prayers and things, I mean, sure, no one's listening, but it does the help for me, and that part is still useful, and I don't want to lose that part. And I'm not sure how that will work because I've only sort of been trying this out for literally a couple days.
Okay. Well,
and I'm not sure if I do this and I'll be praying to nobody that doesn't work.
Well, so
I don't know if it'll feel different or if it will still work because I'm still doing the thing that is useful to me. But I thought I would give a follow up.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you called back in. So my question is, how often? When you were doing these things in a more religious sense, did you do offerings and prayers? Was it like a daily thing, an hourly thing, a minutely thing?
I mean, it wasn't really, it was more of a when I thought about it and had the time kind of thing. So maybe a couple times a month, sort of formal, more formal, I guess, if you will, sort of standing before my shrine and, giving offerings. And I mean, prayers just kind of happened whenever I thought of something or wanted some, I don't want to say wanted some help, but was feeling things were hard to get through on my own kind of thing. Which ended up with a lot of lying in bed saying prayers because I'm a very anxious person and I'd be like, I'm anxious about this, but I can't do anything because I need to sleep.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'd end up being okay, I'm going to pray about this thing while I'm trying to sleep because I can't do anything else right now. So that's the kind of thing that I think.
There are a couple different responses there. I think first is that you are absolutely welcome to take culturally what you want that's helpful. So the example that I like to give is Christmas. I love Christmas. Yeah. That is part of my cultural heritage. And yes, there are religious things that are associated with it, but there are a lot of religions that lay claim to it. And I don't see that as a reason to disconnect from it because I enjoy celebrating the people around me. I enjoy the music and I enjoy the love and the food and all of that
gathering
stuff.
with family and giving things to each other and just having fun. Yeah, I get that.
And so in that way, the tradition, you're allowed to keep. That's just fine. Now, when it comes to saying prayers, at least in my experience over time, it felt hollow. But
and that's why I'm not sure whether if I continue doing it this way, if I will continue doing my prayers or whether they'll change into something else or exactly what will happen with that. Because as I said, I've only been kind of trying out this mindset for
what I've found useful is mindfulness, meditation, and techniques. Listening to myself and taking quiet time. I also deal with a lot of anxiety, and it changed, and I'm really excited to get to tell you that how do I even explain it? What happens is you wind up taking this kind of personal responsibility that at least I didn't take before, because before I would give it over to my God, right? I would say, this isn't mine anymore. This is yours. And I stopped taking responsibility. And in reality, I just stopped caring about things that I really should have been caring about. But in time, you know, with mindfulness, I realized that all those times that I was praying, I was encouraging myself. I was giving myself ways to succeed and looking for different ways to succeed. And that didn't change. In fact, what happened was I became more cognizant of it, right? And those mindfulness techniques were very empowering because I stopped thinking that somebody else was doing things for me and came to the realization that all of those good things that happened in my life, a lot of those I worked for. And those things that I didn't work for, I got to turn to those people in my life and say, fucking thank you. Because it wasn't a person in the sky. It was people who loved me who made those things happen too. Yeah. Right? I got to be more focused on things that in the outside world I'm very lucky to have. I'm lucky to be in the United States and born the way that I was and where I was, to have the conditions that got me to where I am. And I need to be aware of that, you know, and use that privilege to the best of my ability. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you is because I can only give you my own personal experience. And in this experience, I can tell you that it doesn't go away. It doesn't become a loss. What you do is you give yourself a chance to grow in a way that, for me, I never thought possible.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I had kind of been struggling with, because, like I said, there are lots of sort of things that I find useful about my religion and helping me to sort of cope daily and having that kind of ceremony and ritual to go to when I need it and things. And I don't want to lose that. Funnily enough, as I mentioned before, I was an ancient Egyptian polytheist, and one of the things in the ancient Egyptian religion is this concept called Ma'at, which is sort of like truth, justice, equity. And part of what kind of pushed me to go, okay, I can't say I believe in the gods anymore, is this idea of Ma'at, because one of the central things is truth. So believing as many true things as possible is literally in the religion.
Yeah. It's almost like the religion demands that you don't believe the religion. So what I will say is, can you reiterate, because whether you continue the prayers and rituals or not, mindfulness practices are good, at least add them, would be my advice. Yeah. Can you reiterate what it is specifically you get from the ritual and like prayer aspects of that?
So for the ritual thing, I think it's just, I feel something sort of missing from my life when I don't have that kind of like a ceremony ritual kind of thing to go to and do every once in a while. Like, I don't know if it's just something in my personality or a quirk of having grown up in a religious household, admittedly not an Egyptian pagan one. But so I find myself lacking something when I don't have that kind of structure to lean on. The thing with the prayers is more, like I said, I'm a bit of an anxious person, and especially, you know, like when I'm, as I said, like lie in bed at night and I'm like, I need to sleep because I can't do anything about all the things that are worrying me until the morning, and being able to sort of pray to the gods and say, hey, I have this thing that I'm super worried about and I can't deal with it right now. Can you guys help me out? Or just like, one of the things that I find particularly useful is I'll go, hi, I have this worry. Can you like hold on to this for the night and I'll worry about it again in the morning? But I can't deal with it now because I need to sleep. And that like psychological act of just kind of like picking up my worry as if it was a real thing and plonking it over somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's which you have, you know.
Yeah. It's almost like a form of
God hold on to. It just helps me calm my brain down enough to, you know, do important, useful things like sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so it sounds almost like a form of self-hypnosis. What I will say is, do you celebrate holidays in this sort of way of going through the motions, or is that an important aspect of that?
The only holiday in sort of like the Egyptian religion that I sort of really celebrate is the Egyptian New Year, which happens in August. It's a sort of a pretty big like holiday in the religion. Most of the other holidays I celebrate are just the cultural holidays that we have, partially because the Egyptian calendar is super complicated and also was based on like when like the alignment of the stars and like the sun. So it was based around like the star Sirius and when it kind of appeared in the sky, which is different in different parts of the world. And then they had like different calendars for different things. So figuring out exactly when they did their holidays is super confusing and hard.
Yeah. So one of the things I think I alluded to and then talked a little bit about the first time you called is that there are things that I do that are almost like that, right? Like where if I was, specifically religious or just a little bit superstitious, I would assign like a more specific meaning to them, right? In the same way that people go, oh, it's 11:11, make a wish. Which annoys me because I use a 24-hour clock. So really they're saying, oh, it's 23:11. That's significant. And I'm like, no, not really.
Pedant.
Yeah, well, no, it's the 9 minutes between 23:23 and 23:32 I use, and I'll try and like reflect on the day. It doesn't, or get myself to journal or keep a diary on that point. But there's other like sort of random things I do. I make a point of go walking in the rain or other things that are just sort of have a specific significance to me, and I collect and celebrate as many anniversaries and holidays as I can. So as far as there being, oh, well, here's a ritual or a tradition, I very much understand that, and I very much understand the desire of like, oh, okay, I have these anxieties, particularly you've mentioned a few times, before you go to sleep, and I need to do something with them. Have you tried also writing them down? I mean, if it's right before you go to sleep, you're sort of not wanting to do things, but I've also found that that's helpful.
Sometimes, like I said, I just kind of do this exercise mentally because I'm already in bed. But sometimes especially if it's something that's like super worrying and I just cannot concentrate, I have like a notepad and a jar that I keep currently on the shelf that is my shrine. And so I'll write down whatever's worrying me on the note card and like leave it on the shelf. And like, so it's literal physical, like this is the thing that's worrying me. I'm putting it here and then I'm going over here to sleep. And then in the morning I'll put it in the jar, and every once in a while I empty the jar of notes and like,
okay. So have you considered, wild idea, have you considered instead of talking to, I don't know which Egyptian gods are your favorite, talking to your future self? Because, I mean, I have an assumption here, which is that you deal with the things that make you anxious and make them go away, rather than, Amon or whatever. Because then you can create a shrine of keepsakes and nostalgia and memorabilia, which I've done in an informal way by keeping too many things from my life and needing extra storage and living in a room with too many boxes.
I've seen it.
That's fair. I live in a very, very, very small apartment, which is probably the only thing that keeps me from collecting more too many things than I already have.
There is a book that I would like to suggest to you. It helped me a long time ago, and I still turn to it every once in a while. It's a small book. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. And it really is something that I turn back to whenever I can, because, I mean, when it comes to anxiety, it can be tough. And the fun thing about...
An author for that book, do you?
I don't remember. But what I was going to say was the great thing about being an atheist is there is no right or wrong way when it comes to, those kinds of traditions. There's no God that's going to punish you. There's no hell or torment. There's no monstrosity that's going to rise from the ocean. And because of that, you do what you need to be able to take care of your mental health, and talking to people you care about, seeing a therapist, and practicing things like mindfulness techniques are fantastic, because in time, you're going to find that if you really are doing something that doesn't feel like it's true, it will start to lose its pizzazz, and that's okay. Yeah. That's okay, because you don't want to believe something because it makes you feel good. You want to believe it because it's true. And it's awesome that you called back and said that you've come to that, because it shows skepticism. It shows skepticism in a way that people don't very often. They call in, oh, well, it makes me feel good. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So does masturbation.
True. Yeah.
You know, but that doesn't make other things true. It just makes you feel good. And I'm really, really glad that you made that evaluation. You decided that you want to know what is true about things, and you're willing to take something that's very close to you and really give it a good evaluation. That's fantastic, and I really hope that that benefits you other places in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like, maybe as I continue, I will sort of start losing the religiosity as I no longer believe, but maybe I won't. And I don't want to be like, oh, I have to abandon this, because it is helpful, and I don't want to lose that, even if I have to, be honest with myself and say, I don't have evidence right now for God's existing, even though I really want them to exist.
Well, we do too.
Yeah, well,
I mean, okay, hold on a second. The God that I personally made up when I was when I was on my way out of Christianity was this happy, clappy, loving everybody, and everybody gets cupcakes and tummy rubs after they die, and I don't know. It can't be true, and I had to realize that even though it made me feel good, it didn't get me there. But keep what's good about it. Ditch the superstition. Yeah. Keeping the good stuff.
Yeah. So what I will say is the book is by Richard Carlson. Was able to look it up while you were chatting. I don't know if you need a pen to write that down, or you could just go back and rewatch the entire YouTube video. Give us another watch. Hit like and subscribe.
I'm talking to you on my computer, so conveniently I have this computer keyboard right in front of me.
Boom.
Very handy.
It's almost like you could hit that like button. No.
Mike MC in the live chat. That is not dog heaven.
I am already ahead of you.
Nice. It's always good to be ahead of me, I think, in general. So I think as far as wanting there to be a God that exists, I think this is an interesting sort of topic we can segue into that is related to why people believe a God. It's not why you called in, Kate, but I also wish that the world was a better place, but even that wish doesn't lead me to think about, oh, well, wouldn't it be great if there was a God to fix it, right? Like at this point, it's not really a thing I think about.
Well,
I'll watch a fantasy show and be like, okay, cool, that world would be cool, but I don't find it as compelling.
But here's what you can do, right? What you can do is decide what kind of world you want to make it.
Yeah.
And then go out there and make it, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean,
that's where my brain goes now.
When I lived in California and to the best of my ability here in Texas, I'm a pretty big guy, big enough that I'm not worried about people assaulting me. And because of that, if I see somebody pulled over on the side of the road, if I have the time, I generally pull over and help. I've jump-started cars. I've changed people's tires. I've given people rides to, the nearest gas station or safe place. And I do that every chance I get. I've gotten out of my car and pushed somebody's car off of an on-ramp for a freeway when I've had the chance. And I do that because that's the world I want to live in.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember there was this guy, and he looked like this jacked up bodybuilder type, and he was on the side of the road, and I pulled over to help him, and he looked at me, and he was just astonished, and he got super emotional because he's just like, I didn't think with the way that I look
that
anyone would ever help me. He's like, I am so on my own, and my phone is dead, and I can't get off. And I mean,
is it because he was a ginger and people don't like gingers?
No.
Okay.
But it was.
My arms are noodles, and I don't drive.
Then don't. Then you can't. But
do the noodle dance.
But there are other things that you could do, right? There are other things that you can do to make this world a better place.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, and in that way, you are making that world a better place, and you don't need to convince yourself that it's one way or another because you're making it better. And that's like, Kate, that's tangible.
How I try to live is just, leave the world a little bit better off than I found it. And
I mean, you can see the glow on people. They come back after one of the events, Atheists Helping the Homeless. I believe next Saturday we're doing the Ramp Project. When there's a blood drive, and when we're working with the Central Texas Food Bank, right? When there's a beautification project, people come back and you can read it on them that they know, you know what? I did something good today.
Yeah.
And man, it feels good.
find more information about things like that through the ACA, like things that Eric just mentioned, or Foundation Beyond Belief. That's also a good organization. Well, Kate, I think we're going to probably hop on to the next call.
Yes, it was nice talking to you, though.
Yeah.
You're super nice to talk to. And
no, you are.
Take care.
Okay.
And
no, you.
Good luck on your journey.
No, you.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, you guys
Quick,
are
hang up
adorable.
now. All right.